Hello students, in our today's session we will be learning about the replication of DNA. So you will get an idea about what is DNA replication and how the process of replication happens in both the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell, which is covered in the chapter Molecular Basis of Inheritance. So let's get started. The replication of DNA. The DNA molecule regulates and controls all the activities of the cell. Because of its unique structure, it is able to control the synthesis of other molecules of the cell. At the same time, when the cell reproduces, the DNA also should duplicate itself to distribute equally to the daughter cell. As a carrier of genetic information, DNA has to perform two important functions. The first function, heterocatalytic function. When the DNA directs the synthesis of chemical molecules other than itself, then such functions of the DNA are called as heterocatalytic functions. Example, synthesis of RNA, that is the process of transcription, synthesis of proteins, that's the process called as translation, etc. We have autocatalytic functions. When the DNA directs the synthesis of DNA itself, then such function of DNA is called as autocatalytic function. Example, replication. The process by which DNA duplicates itself or makes a copy of itself is called as replication. Through replication, it forms two copies that are identical to it. So let's see the process of replication. Replication of DNA in eukaryotes. Students, in eukaryotic organisms, replication of DNA takes place only once in the cell cycle. It occurs in the S phase of interphase in the cell cycles. DNA replicates through semi-conservative mode of replication. The model for semi-conservative replication was proposed by Watson and Crick on the basis of the antiparallel and complementary nature of the DNA strands. So these are the two people behind the discovery of the process, the structure of DNA and the process of replications, that is James Watson and Francis Crick. Now this is the structure of DNA by Watson and Crick. So this is the structure. They talk about on the basis of two concepts. They said that the mode of replication of DNA is semi-conservative. One is the antiparallel nature and the other is complementary nature. Antiparallel is the polarity of the strand. You will see one strand has the 3' end and at the opposite it has its 5' end, and the second strand has the 5' end close to the 3' and its opposite polarity goes as 3' here. So this is called as antiparallel nature. Complementary nature is the base pairing that we have, that is A to T, G to C. This is the complementary base pairing that your DNA shows. So this is the structure. Just a quick recap on how the structure of our DNA looks. We have our two strands that are there. In between we have the nitrogenous bases which bond together. This is our sugar phosphate backbone. Now the distance between one turn is 3.4 nanometers, and the distance between two nitrogenous bases that come together is just 0.34 nanometers. Then you have a minor groove here where you have a small turn taking place, and where a larger groove here where you have a complete major turn taking place. So this is how the structure of your DNA looks. Students, as I mentioned earlier, we say that the process of DNA replication is semi-conservative. Now, to explain to you what does semi-conservative mean, I have put up a simple explanation. So here you will get a brief idea of what actually happens in the process of replication. So this is your double-stranded DNA. Then these two strands separate out, and when these two strands separate out, you have this one of the strand acting as a template strand over which the new strand is formed with the help of complementary base pairing. So same way is this another old strand to which a new strand is synthesized. So you have two new daughter strands and two older strands. That is, the pink color shows the new daughter strands and the blue color is the older strand. So what happens in this case is half of the original DNA is present and a part of it is a new strand. This process is called as semi-conservative replication. We also have other types of replication. One is conservative replication, where you have completely two different strands that are getting formed. We have dispersive replication, where you have part new and part old of the strand being formed. But in our case, our replication mode of replication is semi-conservative, where you have 50% of the original DNA molecule and 50% of the newly synthesized molecule. So this phenomenon is called as semi-conservative replication. Students, let us now begin with understanding the concept of semi-conservative replication of DNA. So the process of the semi-conservative replication is your activation of the nucleotides. This is the first step. The four types of nucleotides of the DNA, that is DAMP, which stands for deoxyribonucleotide. So this is adenine monophosphate, this is guanine monophosphate, cytosine monophosphate, and tyrosine monophosphate. These are all present in the nucleoplasm. Now they are activated by ATP in the presence of an enzyme phosphorylase. This results in the formation of a deoxyribonucleotide diphosphates. That is, it gets converted to DATP, DGTP, DCTP and DTTP. That is, from their monophosphate forms, they get converted to triphosphate forms. This process is known as phosphorylation. The next step, students, is the point of origin or the initiation point. It begins at a specific point, O, or the origin, and terminates at a point called as T. Origin is flanked by T sites. The unit of DNA in which replication occurs is called as the replicon. Now, in prokaryotes, there is only one replicon. However, in eukaryotes, there are several replicons in tandems. At the point O, enzyme endonuclease nicks one of the strand of the DNA temporarily. Nicks means it introduces a cut. The nick occurs in the sugar phosphate backbone of the phosphodiester bonds. So here, this is an image showing you the difference that happens at the point of origin in a prokaryotic replication and a eukaryotic replication. In prokaryote, you only have one point of origin, and from there the process of replication proceeds ahead. In cases of eukaryotes, we have multiple points of origin. So where you have this point of origin, there the DNA temporarily separates out by introducing a small cut. So when it separates out, the two strands are taken away from each other. So each of the separated strand is going to act as a template strand for the synthesis of the new strand. So this is the first step, that is the initiation points. You have multiple origin points for eukaryotic and you have only one for the prokaryotic cell. Students, the step 3 is unwinding of the DNA molecule. Now that the enzyme DNA helicase operates by breaking the weak hydrogen bonds in the vicinity of the O, that is your origin point, the strands of the DNA separate, they unwind. This unwinding is bidirectional and continues as a Y-shaped replication fork. Have a look at this picture here. You have your original DNA. At the point of origin, the two strands separate, and then you have a Y-shaped structure which gets formed, which is called as a replication fork. Each of this separated strand is now going to act as a template strand. Now these two different strands are prevented from recoiling, that is joining back, by these special proteins which are called as single-stranded stabilizing proteins. These remain attached to both the strands till the new polynucleotide strand is synthesized. The fourth step is the replicating fork. The point formed due to unwinding and separation of the two strands appears like a Y-shaped structure, which is your replication fork. The unwinding of the strand imposes strain, which is relieved by superhelix relaxing enzyme. So you have these helicase enzymes which tries to relax the tension on the strand and prevents them from snapping back. and releases the tension as the direction of the replication proceeds ahead. It allows the continuous unwinding of the strand. Students, the fifth step is the synthesis of the new strand. Each of the two separated strands acts as a template strand for the synthesis of the new complementary strands. So you have a small RNA primer which binds to the 3' end, and in the presence of the enzyme DNA polymerase brings about the two complementary strands, brings about the complementary nucleotides for the formation and the synthesis of the new strand. So you have the bonding, that is AT and GC bonding. The newly bound nucleotides get interconnected by the phosphodiester bonds and forming a polynucleotide strand. Now this is catalyzed, as I told you, you can have a look here also, by the enzyme. You have the RNA primer and you have the DNA polymerase which catalyzes this reaction. Now the new complementary strand is always formed in this 5'3' direction only. Students, the sixth step is the leading and the lagging strand. Now the template strand with free 3' end is called as the leading strand, and the one with free 5' end is called as a lagging strand. Now why this difference? As I told you, the synthesis of the new strand always takes place in 5'3' directions. So on the basis of the complementary polarities, opposite polarities, you have at the 3' end, the synthesis of the strand happens continuously and at a faster rate. So it's called as a leading strand. Whereas in the other strand, which is where the direction has to go in 5'3' direction, as the polarity here is 5', you have the small RNA primers coming in between and forming small strands of the new DNA in your 5'3' directions. These small fragments are called as Okazaki fragments. So here on the lagging strand, the synthesis is in a discontinuous manner from the replication fork, and hence this strand is called as a lagging strand. In this picture also you can see the leading strand goes on continuously, and the lagging strand you have small fragments that are being formed. Students, the next step is the maturation of these Okazaki fragments. On the lagging strand, these tiny fragments that have been formed in 5'3' directions, the RNA primers are removed and they are joined by the enzyme DNA ligase. Now, these fragments are called as Okazaki fragments after the name of the scientist who discovered them. Then, for the removal of these RNA primers, these are replaced the DNA polymerase 1 in prokaryotes and DNA polymerase alpha in eukaryotes. They help in the removal of the RNA primers. Finally, you have gyrase, which is also called as the topoisomerase enzyme, which forms the double helix to give you your two newly synthesized daughter molecules. Students, the last step is the formation of the DNA molecule. At the end of the replication, two daughter DNA molecules are formed. In each daughter DNA, one strand is parental and the other one is a totally newly synthesized one. Thus, 50% is contributed by the mother DNA, and hence it is described as the semi-conservative replication. Here I have put up a picture to give you a quick recap of the entire process of your replication. You have your initial DNA. It unwinds, the DNA molecule unwinds and forms your replication fork, that is a Y-shaped structure. Helicase stabilizes it, and then you have the DNA polymerase which comes and binds, and you have on the basis of the complementary base pairing, a new synthesized strand is put up. And finally, at the end, you have two identical molecules that are there, with which one of the strand is the original strand or the mother DNA, and the second one is the newly synthesized strand, which proves the semi-conservative replication. So I hope this has helped you understand the concept of replication of DNA. Thank you, students, for participating in this lecture. We will meet soon again with the next topic. Till then, take care, be safe, and keep learning.